The average American home has over 300,000 items in it. But here's the reality. The items in our home, they pull our time and energy and attention towards them. And yes, clutter is normal, but it really impacts how we show up.
Welcome to The Lisa Show, where we take a good look at life. Hey, it's Lisa. Confession time. I really have too many lipsticks. It's embarrassing. I know I need to throw some away. If you saw the amount I had in my makeup drawer and judged me on just that alone, you'd be convinced I was a hoarder. I have lipsticks, glosses, lip masks, lip stains, lip oil, lip crayon, lip liners in matte and high gloss. I know the differences. I know which ones are sheer and which ones are plumping. I know it's just too much. I've said too much. I really feel uncomfortable. Now, clutter isn't something that only some people struggle with. It is just a part of life. And no matter how many decluttering techniques I use, I find I can still use more. I mean, you can never have too many good systems, right? And clearly, I haven't found the right one for my lipstick drawer. Yeah. So that's why I have my new friend, Katy Wells, on the show today. Katy is a mom, a businesswoman, and an author of a brand new book on managing clutter without overwhelm. Yeah, we're already overwhelmed. Now, I'll be honest, I could have talked to Katy for hours, and not just about my crippling lipstick addiction. She's a delight. She's real, and she's had so many great ideas about clutter, how it starts, how to handle it, how to have a real relationship with it, and the one clutter item most of us are ignoring. I thought I had heard it all when it comes to this topic, but Katy taught me so much. Let me introduce you.
So I'm Katy Wells. I am a declutter expert and a new author of my new book, Making Home Your Happy Place, a real life guide to declutter without the overwhelm. And I always tell everyone I wasn't born organized. I really had to work my way through it.
Okay, I love this already. Right from the start, you are talking to all of us. Okay, I've got to know then what your own journey has been with this, when decluttering became your purpose and your passion.
True. So I became a mom 11 years ago now, and there is something to be said about the volume of things that comes into your home when you grow your family. And that was really a big sticking point. And I think like a lot of us, I had this idea and vision of what motherhood would look like. And that was like reading extra bedtime stories and playing with my kids. And I really found that clutter was stealing that away from me. And I was a no mom. I was constantly telling my little, toddler, and then I had my second son 18 months later. I was always telling them no when they were small. And it's not because I didn't want to. I desperately wanted to be with them, read the extra bedtime stories, do the blocks. But the clutter and the stuff in my house was constantly getting in the way. And I felt like I had to choose. And it was this constant struggle of frustration, resentment, feeling ashamed, like I just couldn't get my act together when all these other women out there clearly could figure it out, what was wrong with me. And I tried a lot of the traditional methods and, rules like a lot of us have. And I felt like it was just constantly one step forward, three steps back. And that just left me feeling more defeated. And I know I can speak from a place of when we feel defeated and like stuck in shame and failure, like hope and action feel impossible. It's like, what's the point? I'll wait till my kids are 18.
Yeah, I'll worry about that later.
Yeah, and I had a lot of well-meaning advice from people who were like, well, you'll miss this. You'll miss the mess and the clutter. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's so
I don't think
consuming. Yes. So after trying a lot of the popular methods out there, it made me realize in the moment that a lot of the checklists and a lot of the methods out there are treating clutter kind of in an oversimplified way. But a lot of us have tried this. We try the marathon purges. We feel better for a week or two, then the clutter comes back. And really treat decluttering like a project when it's a process. So through this means I created holistic decluttering, which is really getting to the root of your clutter through your mindset, your beliefs, and also, of course, taking action in a sustainable way for a busy parent or busy person so that you can make progress and start to feel that freedom that comes with having less possessions, less tasks, less mess, all those things. And I mean, within months, I started saying yes to my kids more. It changed everything for me. And that's obviously when I became so passionate about helping other families out there.
Oh, well said. I think you touched on something that a lot of us feel is that we tell ourselves some stories in our head that may or may not be true about clutter. What are the most common stories do you think that we tell ourselves that makes decluttering like really hard?
Ooh, it's so loaded, right? I might need it someday. Well, this cost money and it feels wasteful to get rid of it. So instead, I'll just keep it. Someone gave this to me. You know, I'll even go as far as to say is a lot of my clutter was like what I now call identity clutter. For example, let's just say I used to buy a lot of parenting books when my kids were small because I wanted all the knowledge. I wanted to improve. I wanted to optimize. I wanted
of course.
I wanted to be a better parent. And I couldn't keep up with the amount of books I was reading. So a lot of those kind of guilted me, like you'll never be the parent if you let this go. So it can also feel very hard to let go of certain things. And I'll give you another really random example, but it often resonates. I knew on paper, Lisa, that all my high heels from my 20s were clutter. I didn't wear them. I didn't want to wear them. It wasn't even a money issue. It was that when I really thought about letting those go, I was like, but I'll never have fun again. That means I'll never be the bubbly 20-year-old Katy that I was before kids and being sleep deprived, right? Obviously, saying it out loud sounds kind of silly, but these are the things that happen in between our ears when we are in the declutter process. And often when we don't have the right tools to reach for, instead we walk away or instead we deal with the easy clutter. And that's fine. That'll always help. But getting to the root and that answer lies in our mindsets.
I love that. Okay, so some people may listen and think, well, a little clutter, that's not the worst thing in the world. What's that cumulative impact of clutter in our lives? What is the real impact that maybe we're not considering?
There are lots of studies that showcase this. One of the most popular is one from UCLA. And it found that women who describe their homes, Lisa, as either cluttered or messy have elevated levels of cortisol, which is our stress hormone.
Wow.
So this is not just when we're looking at the mess or doing the laundry or dealing with the clutter. This is when we are spending time at home. And over time, our nervous system doesn't feel good in that environment. It feels like a low-grade threat. And if your cortisol levels stay high, that can lead to a lot of other things down the road, like the domino effect, right? Depression, anxiety, fatigue, brain fog, acne, all kinds of random things. I'm almost in perimenopause, so I do a lot more research on cortisol and hormones than I did even 5 years ago. But like, it
Let
is
me tell
real.
you all about it.
Yeah, I know. Like, so our brains perceive clutter as a threat. So I know I don't show up as my best self. I tend to be really short-tempered when I spend time in a cluttered space. I used to tell my husband, I feel like two moms. I feel like happy-go-lucky mom when I'm outside of the house with my kids and at the park, and yes, mom. And then when I walk into the entryway and see all the clutter everywhere, I'm like, like just super angry. And I know that's kind of a dramatic way of putting it, but that's how I used to feel. And the reality is the average American home has over 300,000 items in it.
Wait, are you?
Yes.
How is that possible?
300,000
items.
But now let me rephrase this because here's the reality. The items in our home, they pull our time and energy and attention towards them. So now, instead of saying the average home has over 300,000 items in it, now it's 300,000 magnets for your time, energy, and attention. It hits different, right? You're like, oh, that doesn't feel so good. It feels less passive. And yes, clutter is normal. I think we should all normalize it. And the goal isn't to have a perfectly clutter-free house 24/7. My house isn't. I think that's a reality and expectation we all need to like break free from. That's a big myth out there. And it causes a lot of defeat in women especially. But it really impacts how we show up.
I'm curious then, you've given some examples of these, common stories that we tell ourselves that make decluttering hard. What about the healthier, sort of more productive, maybe sayings or mantras that we can tell ourselves that will be more empowering and help us to not like second guess ourselves when it's time to declutter?
So one of my favorites is future me will thank me for letting this go. I think too often our brains are wired to look at like short term, right? Like, I'm afraid, I don't know, should we let this go? But it's like, man, imagine never having to think about this thing that's been sitting on my countertop for 6 months ever again. So it's a gift to
what
our
a gift.
Yes. The goal isn't to not feel your feelings and it's not to be like, ooh, I don't know about this. You might still feel a sting. I think a lot of us go into it like, what's the magic wand so I don't feel anything? It can feel like a slog. I'm not going to deny that. So focus on your trajectory, not your position. I think that might be a James Clear quote. I apply it towards so many areas in life. But as long as you are doing small things on a consistent basis over time, those are going to compound and leave a lasting result. And for anyone that doesn't have 6 hours a day to declutter, you don't need it. Just focus on what you're doing, not your position. That's been a big one. And also the reality is you don't have to have a perfect home. I want to encourage your listeners that, my book is called Making Home Your Happy Place because for years, my home wasn't that. And I thought my home had to be perfect in order to be happy. And it doesn't. You can start feeling happier. Today, go grab a trash bag, go declutter for 10 minutes. And whenever I say that to people, or you see a before and after on social media, your brain is like, I like this, right? And it's because how we're wired. Our brains are wired to crave peace and order, and clutter is the opposite. Clutter is chaos.
Clutter is chaos. Okay, so someone who is feeling like, okay, let's do this. Are there certain rules of thumb for deciding what to keep, how many of something to keep, and what to toss? Help give us some a framework. I love a system.
Well, one of my golden rules, I use it all the time. In fact, I use it really every day. I ask myself this question as I move throughout my house. I'm doing chores, whatever, putting toys away, getting dressed in the morning. I'm scanning my environment and I'm saying, have I had the opportunity to use this in the last 6 months? We get really objective answers when we ask that one question, right? Because we're trying to out-negotiate what's to come. But if I've had the opportunity to use something in 6 months, you could do 6 to 12, right? As we head into spring, I love to audit my closet. And so I will, for clothing, did I have the opportunity to wear this coat or this heavier jacket before I put it away for the season, this winter? If I did, but I reached for something else, right? These are all clues. And of course, you can always give yourself the opportunity to use it if you didn't have that opportunity. But the reality is, I think we can gain a lot of perspective and insight from using that one question. I am never and have never been big on numbers and 10 t-shirts. I mean, I get capsule wardrobes. All these things are great.
Yeah.
I think it's really tricky territory when we don't set those boundaries for ourselves. So I think a good starting point for a lot of us is setting a physical boundary for a category of things. Now, by nature, our homes are physical boundaries for our stuff. But if you want to work through, say, your closet, let's just stick to the closet example. Decide on a very intentional physical boundary you want your shoes to fit in. So if you have to reach over 18 piles of shoes to get to the pair you want, maybe it's not going from 18 stacks of shoes to one. That feels very extreme to a lot of people. And by no means does that have to be your end goal. But maybe you could go, you know what, based on my closet and how I love shoes and my reality, I'm going to make it my initial goal, 2 rows of shoes. And it's going to be a physical boundary. It can be a shoe cubbies is a great example, or just even an area on the floor you dedicate to it. It doesn't have to be fancy. And so you'll notice as you look through your home and spot the obvious clutter, oftentimes when you don't have physical boundaries in place, it's going to spill out. It's going to become overwhelming. And having that physical boundary, at least in your mind, knowing the toys live here, the kitchen supplies live here. I want all of my utensils to live inside this drawer. It's like guardrails on a road, right? You don't realize you need a guardrail until you start drifting and you're like, this is here. Not to
thank goodness this is here.
Not to feel restrictive, but to keep me heading in the right direction. I need to spend 5 minutes decluttering this drawer because it's starting to overflow. I think those are 2 really, really great starting points for everybody.
Oh, that's so great. Do you have a strategy for managing the constant, relentless influx of paper?
Yes, and it's so simple.
Especially when your kids go to school. I'm always like, oh my gosh, it's just like it multiplies everywhere.
Yeah, so I kind of have 2 separate systems set up. So there is one bin that lives in my entryway right on the wall at kid height, so it's quite low. So that way they can easily access it. So one of the first habits I taught my kids is when we get home, all the papers that you need me to look at, I often don't even look at that until the end of the week, unless there's something pertinent like a field trip form I need to sign.
Yeah.
Once a week on Sunday, I will go through the stack. By then, the novelty of their artwork has worn off, or perhaps not, but most often they don't really care. They don't need it. You can decide what to do, take photos, etc. So that's kind of my kid paper one. Now, from a male perspective, I keep it really simple. I have 3 categories. Number 1 is temporary. The reality is, Lisa, most of the stuff that comes into our home from a paper perspective doesn't need to be kept forever. These are like birthday invites, addresses, coupons that expire, stuff like that. I go through that once a month. And then you're like, oh, birthday party's over, whatever. Don't need that anymore. Take action is the next one. So a bill I need to pay, something I need to check my bank account, right? There's some type of action that needs to be taken. And then a file, right? So maybe you take action, maybe one of the papers goes from take action into file, right? But that's how we really work it out.
What are some examples of some of the papers that you've kept that you feel like you need to keep forever?
I mean, all the obvious things, passports, license, mortgage stuff, vaccination stuff. So we have a really small, like 12 by 12 inch waterproof, fireproof container. Anything that needs to be kept for like 7 years plus. And then once a week, I don't like processing papers daily personally. I mean, I find that most of us don't really need to. So I find that 3 file system works really, really well. And going through, again, putting it on your calendar to make it a habit, things like that. Once a week, pick your day, Friday night, Sunday, whenever. And going, 5-10 minutes, and you can get through that in a jiffy.
Okay. So what do you think that we often overlook but could really benefit from some decluttering attention?
I would say digital clutter, it does carry a weight, right? Like my husband, I think he has 20,000 unread emails and it doesn't bother him. I'm like, boy, that stresses me out. Like, don't even show me your inbox.
I know.
But now I feel like I'm in a season where for me, I think social media clutter, it causes so much mental clutter and the trickle down side effect, depending on how you're spending your time on social media, who you're intentionally following. I just find the more I use it, the more my prefrontal cortex gets hijacked.
So how do you declutter a social media?
Well, a couple different ways. So number one, to make my phone and social media less addictive, there are studies on this and that's how I found out about it. But making your phone grayscale is like immediately you don't touch your phone as much. So it's all black and white and grayscale. You can do that on any type of phone.
Really?
Yes. So that's really easy, low-hanging fruit. It helped me a lot. And also I use something, it's a device I bought. There's no subscription and I'm not affiliated with them, but it's called the Brick. And you can block certain websites, certain apps at different times of day. Like if you're like, I want to scroll less at night and hang out with the kids more. But the temptation's always there. You can literally, if you go to log into Instagram and you have it blocked through this device, it'll say like, go back to living life. And it's like the coolest thing.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, just a few of those, I'm like, that's like all it didn't take me a lot. And you can unblock it super easy.
Yeah.
But like, it's been a game changer.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that you were going to say declutter digitally. That's pretty amazing to me. I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. At this stage of my life, as my children are leaving home, it's the sentimental items that I'm like, do I keep it? Do I not? But how do I just like put this in a dump? How do you feel about sentimental items and knowing how or when to declutter that?
The $1 million question for you and any listeners out there. I mean, it looks different for everyone. Again, I tend to use like the physical boundary as my goal. So for my kids, we have, now again, your kids are older, so I have these keepsake bins. So it's like similar to my other paperwork, 12 inch by 12 inch, and they have kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth. We've digitized some stuff. We put some art books and others, physical ones that don't necessarily fit in there. But that tends to help me curate versus collect. And so from a sentimental perspective, from a very objective perspective, if you're like, but Katy, I need something tangible to help me figure out what to keep and not keep. Again, your kids are also potentially at a pretty good age to invite them into that process and say, here's all the things I've kept. Listen, do you want to go through this with me or do you want me to make those decisions? And use like a super simple, like 1 through 10 point system. 1 is like, I don't even remember this. I feel nothing when I look at this. And here's the thing about sentimental. It might have been special 5 years ago or 20 years ago, but time can do some heavy lifting. Yeah. And other things can kind of take priority. So I always say, you want to curate your 8s, 9s, and 10s.
That's really good advice. And having them come in on it too can be a great opportunity to share the stories and to connect with them about why this is, because it's not about the thing. And I think we know that instinctively. Like it's not about the item, but about the feelings and the memories that it elicits. And because we want to have that connection. Any tips with other memorabilia?
Yeah, I've had a lot of clients, like one client for her mother's clothing. She turned all of those into pillows. And she sent the pillows to her family across the country. And they're like, anytime we want to give grandma a hug, we literally just go snuggle the pillow. And I was like, this is the most touching thing. You can do that with grandpa's ties or whatever. My husband ran a lot of 5Ks growing up. So he had these bins and boxes of musty, dusty, crusty t-shirts. And I didn't pressure him, but at some point he did decide, he knew he didn't want to do the blanket. You can get them turned into a blanket or quilt. So my kids were at an age where he passed them on. So my kids are literally, they're a little big on them, but they wear his 5K. And he grew up in Chicago during the Bulls era. So they have all the Chicago Bulls stuff.
That's cool.
My husband and my kids think it's the coolest thing. It's been really special. So think about ways you can not necessarily repurpose, but perhaps integrate some of this into your life. Maybe some of your grandma's things you put out on the mantle for decorations for the Christmas season if you want to remember them. I think we can get really creative. And if things live in a box, that's A-okay. Maybe you open it once a year with a cup of tea and enjoy the birthday cards. But I think it is special when we can integrate it into our lives and really extract more value from it.
Yeah, extracting more value. I like that. For someone who's feeling absolutely overwhelmed and they listen and they think, okay, I can do this one small step, what would that be for you?
Number one, set up a permanent donation station somewhere in your home. And here's why. Procrastination is the number one predictive factor for clutter accumulation. So in other words, the more you procrastinate, the more clutter accumulates. And guess what? The more clutter accumulates, the more we procrastinate even more because it gets so overwhelming, right? And we've all heard the phrase, something along the lines of everything in your home should have a spot or a home, right? All your stuff should have a home. So the same thing goes for clutter. There are hundreds of opportunities as we are home, whether you work full-time or not, in your mornings, at night, cooking, doing dishes, hanging out with the family, that we are scanning our environment, we spot clutter, and the donation station becomes an immediate entry point and home for clutter you spot throughout your day. So you don't have to overhaul your life. You don't have to do marathon purges and quit your job in order to declutter and simplify. And because you have that entry point, it's a visible, accessible, gentle reminder, my donation bin is empty. I haven't used it. I put one in my laundry room because my kids grow quick. Idea. So when things come out of the dryer that don't fit my kids, I don't go, I don't have time for this, or I'm just going to shove it back in their dresser for now. No, it immediately goes in the donation bin. I have one in my closet. I'm continuing to curate my closet. It's been so profound. Our environments influence our actions. That's the reality. That's how we're wired. So we need to play that in our favor. And a donation station and these clutter audits do just that.
I love that. What about preventative methods? How do you prevent clutter in the first place? I'll just tell you a quick little story. My brother always has this idea. He's like, I treat the mail from the mailbox like it's like hot lava. To put it on the counter, I don't put it down. Yeah. I just throw junk mail immediately in the garbage, and then stuff I need to keep, which is usually not very much, in its place. If I put it out on the counter, I feel like, it's just going to burn through it all. I'll never move it. It'll be, do you have anything like that?
Yeah. One of my favorites is, it's an acronym. It's Ohio, only handle it once. And I think from a clutter perspective too, but really more from what I would call an expected mess perspective, there is a difference between the two. I think clutter is often used as an overhanging word for any type of mess, but expected mess is mess that happens from being a living human being. Yeah. So dirty dishes, toys on the floor that were just played with, dirty laundry. Clutter, on the other hand, is optional. Expected mess is not. But regardless, only handle it once. Don't put it down, put it away. This is what your brothers, and I love the hot lava analogy because no one wants to hang on to hot lava. You want to make the decision quick or put it into your 3 filing systems really quickly. But I think too, and this is often under-discussed, is how do I prevent clutter from coming back? The reality is our homes and the stuff in it should evolve with our goals, our lifestyles, and our needs. A lot of your listeners I know have families too, and my kids were into Pokemon last year. Now they hate Pokemon. So guess what? We don't have Pokemon anymore. So what was not clutter a year ago is clutter now. So again, decluttering is a process, not just a project. So I just want to validate
that.
The natural cycle of things. On the other side of that coin too, the accumulation piece. Yeah. I got really good at decluttering with my right hand and shopping with my left, girl. I was my own worst enemy. So I think we all need to put intention into just adding some more pauses before we purchase that thing we see on TikTok or Instagram. And it's just going to do us a lot of favors.
Yeah, I find that the better that I get at decluttering, which has obviously gotten easier as my kids have moved out, Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Oh,
yes.
wait a second. This is the best hack ever. It's just like less people, less stuff. I mean, it's super sad, but you got to look for the silver lining wherever you can. That's my point, Katie. But I'm much more discerning about what I purchase when I'm better at decluttering. Like when I'm in a decluttering phase, I'm like, wait, if I welcome that into my home, then it needs to have a place. Is it place worthy? Because I spent a lot of time cleaning this out. Yeah.
I love that.
I like too that you have acknowledged throughout our conversation that everybody's going to make different choices. And your choices are going to change based on your life changes. How do you approach that when you go into different households, knowing that they value different things and that their needs are different? How do you adjust to that in helping them declutter?
Yeah, with my clients and for me too, most people come to me and they're like, it's my husband and my kids. And I'm like, let's look at your closet. And they're like, no, don't look there. No,
it's fine.
So start with your own stuff, model what you want to see. My husband knew I meant business when I started tackling my stuff instead of nagging him about his. From a very young age with my kiddos, when I was going through this process, I wanted it to be collaborative in an age-appropriate way. So I started inviting them in to help me declutter the kitchen in a very neutral space. What do they care if I get rid of the spatula or not? No.
Right.
But I'm teaching them what's that conversation happening between my ears and teaching them discernment. When does something become clutter? How to notice clutter? Who's responsible for cleaning up after you? In my house, it is not mom. We do it together. And I think share what's in it for them too, whether it's managing expected mess and taking ownership or decluttering. I think often we're like, you need to do this. And when we don't understand the why, it's hard to understand the what. Because they're like, why do you want me to spend my night decluttering? Or why do I need to pick up my room? Just because you said so, right? So there's not enough context there. So instead, you can be like, here's what I've noticed. I've noticed that it's hard for us to get out in the morning to school because we can't find your shoes. You're losing your homework. What do you think we could do together to solve this so that our mornings get better and you wake up in a better mood? Right? All of a sudden, they're like, oh, I can see how this is benefiting me versus this is just what mom or dad's telling me to do.
Yeah, she just wants control. Yes. And it's like, no, it's not about that. I like that approach a lot. You've probably talked to a lot of people and heard everything. What is a decluttering myth that you would love just to dispel?
Oh, that the end goal is a perfectly tidy home 24/7. I think that is a very damaging standard. We are all taught to seek. Do X, Y, and Z, and your home will look this way.
Yeah.
So when the mess or the clutter comes back, we feel like failures. So I think it's important to set that harmony and that goalpost for yourself. And so for me, that became what I now call the good enough home. Like my home and your home doesn't need to look like a Pottery Barn ad. But I think that myth and standard causes a lot of mental angst and clutter for especially a lot of women because of our culture. And that one by far, I think, is a good one to declutter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bring back regular homes, like they don't look like they're in the parade of homes or out of a magazine, but like how they looked like when we were growing up, like the real homes with cereal boxes out instead of like clear containers and everything. Like, and I just use that as an example because I'm like, but I want the clear containers. No, be real, Lisa. Like I fight with myself about stuff like that all the time. Because I like it. But at the same time, it's not about the one thing, but it's now this is our standard, which is unrealistic. We live in real homes with real people. One thing that I tried to say to myself in my head, especially when my kids were little, is relationships are more important than things. So if I was going to yell at a kid and, ruin the relationship because I'm more worried about an object or a thing than them, then I got to check myself before I wreck myself.
Wise words. Yes.
Right?
I love that.
Are there any other decluttering myths or things that you just wish you could just get rid of?
Yeah, I think the confusion and lack of clarity between what it is to declutter and organize. Like, I think all of us are trained, ironically, or maybe not so much, to solve clutter with consumption, meaning buy the bins, buy the labels, buy the Cricut, whatever. It's just like,
ouch.
We stay in this capitalistic consumption pattern. I really thought I was decluttering. I didn't know. No one explained to me, like, you're not actually. Decluttering is the act of letting go. So I organized first and wasted so much time and energy trying to organize my clutter, when in fact, we need to just edit and declutter first. And then by nature, organizing becomes so much easier when there's less of it. and you're not trying to organize clutter. So there's value in bins and labels. I'm not negating that, but I think sometimes we take it too far, and just because of how our culture is, right? It's like, here's a problem, you can buy your way out of it. So I think that's another big doozy.
That's brilliant. I think that's a big deal, what you just said. I think that's a big deal. It saves you time and energy and focus. Yeah. Oh, man, that could have saved me a lot of time back in the day. Shoot.
It's never too late. It's never too late.
I do have to confess, I feel like I need to confess to you too, that there are some things that I let myself have too much of. Not everything, but like a category.
Yes.
I have a lot of books in my house, like bookcases and things like that. And I know I could go through and get rid of half of them, but I choose not to. And I just think everything else is on the table to declutter. But just for my mental peace, I just think, we'll keep the books.
I love this. And I wish
And I don't know if that's good or not.
I talk about that. Yes.
But I think I can choose one thing.
I say this all the time. Everyone has their thing. So just because I changed my shopping habits, I still love clothes. One of my best friends, she has far less clothing than me, and she can look at my closet and be like, wow, that seems like a lot, because it is for her, but I wear these things. I love clothing. She's like, I could wear the same thing every day and be golden. Where I embrace
so you can't judge the two.
And this is, again,
and
I'm so glad you brought that up, because some of us carry guilt about that. Like, I should go through my books because that's what so-and-so would do. Or or maybe it's even fear of like a friend coming over. They're going to think it's too much, so I should edit this, right? We have so much external judgment and fear that can really influence our choices. But when you're anchored into, no, this is my thing, in a healthy way, then let it be your thing, and declutter the thought that like you should do anything about it,
Declutter the thought. That was brilliant. Well done. I like that. Well, this has been such a good, productive conversation, and I love the things that you've said, and I think it's really encouraging. A lot of times people don't want to talk about this kind of stuff because they think they're going to feel guilty, and they're going to be like met with more unrealistic expectations, and you've really revealed the opposite. That it's those unrealistic expectations that are standing in your way of decluttering. It's, you don't need to get more, buy more, consume more to be able to do this. And it actually is kind of a freeing thing to have that both digitally and in person. So I really appreciate your thoughtfulness with this. And I'm wondering if there's anything else that we haven't talked about surrounding declutter that you feel passionately about that you could mention now. Is there anything we haven't covered?
I just think too, a lot of people, not if, but when at some point feel discouraged in their declutter journey. I should be further along. It's just taking too long. And I just want to encourage your listeners out there that there's a big difference between spending your time and investing your time. When we spend our time scrolling on social media, like, we're not expecting anything back, right? But when we invest our time, just like we might invest money in the stock market, it's because we're hoping for a return, more money back than we put in. Mm-hmm. And decluttering is like one of the biggest things I've ever done that continues years and months down the road to be such an investment of my time. Not only do we gain the physical space in our homes back, but I'm gaining time and remember that magnet analogy we talked about earlier? For every one thing you let out of your house, you regain time, energy, control, mental liberation, happiness, joy, peace, presence, connection. You talked about relationships being more important than material possessions, but material possessions, clutter, get in the way of our relationships with ourselves, with our partners, with our kids. Yeah. And so anytime you feel like, what's the point? This is taking too long. Just remind yourself, this is an investment of my time. And I'm going to reap the benefits, and those benefits compound over time, especially if you're like me. I just take small actions every day and focus on consistency over intensity.
I know this isn't a finance podcast, but the idea of investing our time instead of spending our time, that's good stuff. Decluttering isn't just another task. It's an investment in our lives. Do we really want 300,000 things in our home clamoring for our time, attention, and energy? And that's in addition to all the demands made by our phones. Is another 15 minutes on Instagram a good investment? Is another spatula really worth the wrestle of trying to shove it in the drawer that won't close because there's already 7 spatulas in there? Not speaking from experience. Katy helped me realize that decluttering isn't just about letting stuff go. It's about getting things back, like time, energy, connection, joy, and peace. Now, those are things I could use a lot more of in my life, even if that means saying goodbye to a lipstick or 2, or 10 or more.
The Lisa Show is a production of BYU Radio, hosted by Lisa Valentine Clark. This episode is produced by Erica Price, with help from Becca Hurley-Lung, Blake Morris, and Kenny Mears, with post-production by Kiplin Merrill. A special thanks to today's guest, Katy Wells. Links to her new book, Making Home Your Happy Place, and her website will be in the show notes. Don't miss out on 2 other amazing podcasts from the Lisa Show family, The Council of Moms and Proofread, a new book review podcast to help you read more of what you love. You can find The Council of Moms and Proofread on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. As always, thanks for your messages. We read them all, and thanks for listening.
Do you find yourself avoiding the news because of how depressive and divisive it all seems, but still want to stay informed? You are not alone. Top of Mind, a BYU Radio original podcast, understands how polarizing these conversations can be and wants to help you engage in the challenge while seeking understanding. With the goal of developing empathy for others, Top of Mind helps you clarify your own views, become an effective advocate for the things that you care about, and challenges your way of thinking so you can become a better citizen and a kinder neighbor. Listen to Top of Mind now on the BYU Radio app or wherever you get your podcasts.